welcome to Command West, a Commanders podcast where we tackle the latest Washington football team news and answer the hard-hitting questions like, is Tommy DeVito better than Sam Howell?
Ouch.
We'll cover that and more tonight on this episode of Command West. I'm Bradley.
I'm Eddie.
I'm Donnie.
I'm Tico, and that's Donnie. I'm Tico.
And tonight we have an extra special guest. Eddie, I'll have you introduce him.
Yeah, we've brought in a giant fan, an East Coast favorite, our man Marty Schulman. Marty has been a friend of mine for many years. He was actually a fellow Italian, a fellow Paisan before, Marty Signori, and then he changed his name because he got married to a wonderful woman named Schulman, and it helps for business. Why not?
Very nice.
So,
well, thank you so much for
so
being on the
happy
show.
to have him.
Yeah.
And
Welcome.
we're hoping that he doesn't just completely destroy us.
Well, if he does, we deserve it. So
we deserve it. So let it rip, Marty. Tell us know what happened.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. My name's Marty Schulman. I am a video producer. I oversee content for commercials and branded content for brands. And on my side hustle, I wrote Fantasy Football for Dummies. Second edition out now.
Very cool. Very cool.
I just happened to have the original version, which was given to me.
There you go.
I'm so bad at it that I stopped doing it altogether. But good read.
And we're gonna put the link to that into the description
to the
video,
second
so you
edition.
can check
Cool.
out that second edition.
Absolutely. Well, I still play in a league with Eddie. He won this week. He had a good game, right?
Better than I did.
What league did I win?
Right? Aren't you running
Fantasy?
your blue popcorn team in HFL? Or did you give that away?
I don't
Oh,
have
you
that.
must yeah, Todd,
I
you must
haven't
have
done
given
any
it
of that
away.
stuff.
Somebody else is
Yeah.
winning in his name.
Yeah, there you go.
We had him playing a little bit, but I guess he went back into retirement.
Marty,
Yeah.
can we
So, yeah.
assume? Can we assume you're a lifelong Giants fan, or what's your?
I don't
history
know.
with the
I don't
Giants?
know. What do you think,
Oh,
guys?
geez.
Is this thing?
That goes back a ways.
Well, I could also see if you could see. Can you? I don't know if you can make this out.
Yeah,
but
there
it's
you
signed.
go.
It's
Yeah.
signed. Can you see the signature?
Oh, it's
Oh,
signed.
wow,
it's
look at
signed.
that.
LT signed
Yeah.
it, huh?
It's blurry.
Nice.
It says
No,
we
that's
love
a-
Washington.
That's
What
a
is
good
it?
one.
Yeah, I met him at a charity golf outing and won the
Cool.
silent auction. Actually, I got outbid at the last second, and it was an open bar, so I was a little upset and a little drunk. And I went up and I said, "I demand a win. They stole this from me. I want a jersey." And they said, "Okay, calm down, fine. We'll get another one and we'll send it to you." And I was like, "Bullshit. He's sitting out there drinking. I want this jersey. I want to wear it now. I will pay you the money, and then I want a picture with LT with me wearing the jersey." And I got it. And
And you got it. And they didn't just go, Psh, typical New York fan.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Well, they were
that
raising-
sounds like a New York fan.
I mean, it cost me $500, so it's like, but it's money for charity. It's it's charity,
All right.
and
it's
so it helped the
charity.
charity. And LT was down with helping the charity, so they went and talked to him and told him there was some psycho fan, that, and he's like, "That's cool. I'm sure LT doesn't feel threatened by somebody the size of me, but he was super cool." And yes, Giants for life. Went to Super Bowl 25 in Tampa. Saw the
Very cool.
Norwood wide right in person, and
Wow.
and of course LT's greatest moment, the Theismann leg break. So you're welcome.
His greatest moment. Wow. All right. He's had a lot of great moments, but it's not
Anything that hurts the Commanders, that's the
Well,
greatest moment.
I re-ranked that for this particular podcast.
Yeah,
That's all.
fair enough.
I like a collectible with a story. So thank you for that. That's
Very
good.
nice.
Well, he
Very
was
nice.
nice enough to call to the sideline to tell,
Yeah.
That's
the
right, he did.
Redskins
Well, he got
was
up
worried
and
about him,
panicked.
yeah.
medical staff to come in.
He did. Yeah,
he was
knew
a good
right
guy.
away.
He was a good guy.
He knew
Good
I
player.
think I
something.
killed him. Come here.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
killed him.
you know-
I just ended someone's career. Come on out.
Exactly. I met LT
Awesome.
one time. Bradley might be too young to remember, but do y'all remember MTV Downtown Julie Brown?
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
She was one of the originals.
Yeah.
Yeah. BJ's. Yeah.
Or at least the second wave. Like
Was she? Okay.
Yeah. But she and LT were at the car wash. We were all at the car wash together. And I think
No
they
way.
came in.
Almost girl.
Yeah,
They had come in together, and I came in separately. But
Mhm.
it was
That's
cool
awesome.
meeting them.
Very nice.
It was cool meeting them.
That's cool.
So let's talk
Love
about.
LT.
Should we talk about this particular season and this
Sure.
particular game? Because
Wow.
if
not
we
only
have
this
to,
game, I feel like this season, it's like we lost you guys twice, and both times we were favorited. Both times you guys were banged up, having third stringers, O line, two backup quarterbacks, one a second string, one a third string. So I want to hear your thoughts and be as brutal as you possibly can because I'm ready for it. We're all ready for it.
I mean, it's a true mystery, right? I don't. I mean, I really didn't see that coming. I mean, I picked Washington. I wasn't.
Oh, in
I
your
had.
survivor pool, right?
Luckily, I picked Miami in my survivor pool, but I was
Smart.
this
Good.
close to taking Washington. 2 weeks ago, I took Dallas against the Giants, and I was nervous because I thought something like this could happen. Right, as a rule of survivor, you should always try and avoid interdivisional games.
Yeah.
There's history, there's rivalry, and interdivisional games. This happens, right? There's a team that's totally out of it, terrible, and yet somehow they're like, we can't lose to those guys. And they rally and they steal a game in the divisionals. So
Twice,
for whatever
right?
reason, the last 5 years almost it's been,
yeah.
the Giants seem to have mysteriously had Washington's number.
Yeah.
I have Sam Howell in fantasy. I think there's some potential there for you guys. It was shocking, that was certainly the nail in the coffin of Ron Rivera, in my opinion. Like I
We
don't
all felt he should be gone.
imagine.
That nail came a few weeks earlier, but
Did you think, Marty, that you'd be gone before Thanksgiving game? Because to me, it's like,
No. Well, look, when they traded the defensive players, ownership already made them a lame duck, right? They already declared they were tanking. The tank's working if you lose to the Giants and Tommy DeVito for sure. And now you jumped up the draft board. So look, Ron Rivera is a good guy in the league. He's known. I mean, it's hard to say he's a bad coach.
No.
Has he done a great job in Washington? Probably not. But has he had an incredibly stacked roster? No. So who knows? But the new ownership's going to want to reset. They're going to want to get their own coach. Everybody knows it. But there's nothing to be gained by firing in midseason if you're the new owners. Like, go out with dignity. The thing you want to restore in Washington is respect. The biggest problem that Washington's had, in my opinion, is not necessarily the ups and downs and the winning and the losing. It was the owner. Like the owner made the franchise. Yeah, he made you guys a joke of the league. So to me, Josh Harris trying to restore some dignity. Step one, don't fire respected Hall of Famer Ron Rivera midseason. Let it go.
That's a
Of
good
course,
point.
he could have gotten angry. I mean, that was certainly a game they could have, should have won. The Giants are decimated. But there's a lot of parity in the league, right? They had lost a lot of games. They were mad. DeVito had 3 weeks to practice now and got ready, and things happen.
Yeah.
Five turnovers. Five turnovers.
Thanks for being so nice.
We had a drive to win the game. The Giants are not good either. I mean, the fact that we turned it over 5 times and we still had the ball with a minute and a half left to go and score the game-winning touchdown. That tells us how bad these two teams are. I mean, really,
exactly.
These are
we
two of the
sacked
worst teams
8 times,
right now.
and we didn't gain anything
9.
from 8 sacks.
9.
9 sacks.
That's
9 sacks.
9.
So
9
both
sacks.
of our quarterbacks have been sacked that many times in one game, making it a very good quality that both teams seem to have. It's a very nice, little asset to have in your cap.
Yes, and I also started in fantasy. I started the Washington defense, so that's 9 fantasy points for all those sacks. But even though they gave up a lot of points, you get more points for sacks and turnovers. So it actually wasn't a terrible game. But no one expected it. Hey, I don't like to pour salt in the wound, right? And I know I have friends of mine that believe NFC East ride or die. Like, they were rooting for the Eagles last year in the Super Bowl, and I couldn't quite cross that bridge. I understood it. We're all in the same boat in some regard. We all agree the worst team that we hate the most in the division is the Cowboys. That's never a debate.
I don't agree.
First of all, they're not in the East at all.
Yeah, we had a discussion about that earlier, Marty. We got because the young one
didn't live through the triplets and the Jimmy Johnson and all. Yeah, okay.
So who he hates? The biggest rival, the Eagles. Yeah, because
that makes sense.
Look at it today. That's
I mean,
the most hateable.
If I see Nick Sirianni running down the sideline, like jumping up and down one more time, like I want him to have like a I don't
An
want to say it. I'm not
aneurysm?
going to say it. I want him to get. I'm going to say a nice thing. I'm going to say a nice thing.
Turf toe.
I want him
Turf toe.
to like sprain an ankle running down the sideline, be in a walking boot, and like be kind of miserable and like wet and rainy for like the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Again, I
Yeah,
would
I'm
like
with
a
you
lot
on
more
that.
everything.
He's very unlikable.
Yeah.
He seems so douchey. Like, I don't know what it is. As a franchise, they're a little bit more forlorn than the Cowboys over the years. At our age, we also grew up with Roger Staubach when we were, and the 70s Cowboys are really good.
Yeah.
And they had a lull of crappiness in the 80s when the Giants were good. And then and the Redskins were good then too. There was a lot of great games back then. And then in the 90s,
that's when the Redskins were good.
Yes, they were.
Right.
That's what
The
I'm saying. There was a lot of
Redskins were
good
good,
Giants,
We're
Redskins.
still living. People are still living off of that. And
It's all we got.
We've been bad for so long.
Decades.
Well, that's what I mean. I can't pile on here. Like after that phase, both teams, had a down phase, but the down phase for Washington was 10 times worse. The Giants came back with Eli Manning, won some rings, right? Washington's still been adrift since then. And, it's one of the premier franchises and it's not great for the league. And so, yes, I save my hate. Eddie and I are friends and we save our hate for Todd and the Cowboys and the Eagles, right? He doesn't necessarily begrudge the Giants that much, I think. And I really don't begrudge Washington because it's been too long. Like it's time for you guys to turn it around.
It's true.
I have a question. I have a question for my Washington fans here.
Okay.
Do you guys think Sam Howell is the future?
He's the present.
Okay.
I think
there's a strong possibility. Maybe there's a lot of hope involved in that, but I'm looking to him as the future right now.
I look at it this way: you put a good enough offensive line in front of him, he's got a chance to make it. Not as a star, but I think he's got a Mahomes kind of quality.
He's got an arm.
He's got a rocket arm. I think he's got a better arm than Mahomes, to tell you the truth. But Mahomes is just like a miracle worker. He just comes up with ways of throwing it that no one ever tried. And he succeeds almost 90% of the time. There's not many quarterbacks that can do that. But he's still a little short. I think he's a little short, and he gets blocked a lot over the line. So if he scrambles,
you think Mahomes is short?
No, we're talking about Sam Howell.
Eddie, what is this
Sam Howell is?
Sam Howell short?
I went off on a tangent. I went back to Howell. But basically what I'm saying is I think Sam has got a rifle arm, but he's a little short. He doesn't have enough arc sometimes because he's firing it. And there's guys who just go like this and they're 6'2" and they're blocking the shot. So it's like, how do you deal with a quarterback that's small like that, Marty? Like, what do you think of him? His size? He's 6'1", right? He's like.
Well, that's one of the questions, right? I mean, if he was 6'4", he wouldn't have been drafted where he was, right? So maybe you got some value. He can run. You move him around. You call some plays to open up the passing lanes. You try and get a little creative. He wouldn't be the first quarterback to succeed at 6'1", but it's getting harder and harder every year. On average, linemen get taller. Everyone's getting bigger in the league. So yeah, that's a potential reason to say, hey, maybe this guy isn't the answer. He's a little undersized. But I don't know. There's all the other factors that teams evaluate on, right? That I don't think that's necessarily a deal breaker. I mean, look at the Panthers. I mean, they got to be kicking themselves. Bryce Young looks terrible, but everyone knew he was short. We didn't know he would be terrible, but we knew he'd be short.
Is he just terrible because he has no offensive line, or he's just terrible?
Well, he's having a bad first year. I mean, look, there are a lot of great quarterbacks have had bad first years, so you can't totally write him off yet. But the problem with Bryce Young is that he's empirically forever short. And so for a short guy to come in and be that horrific, like how do you stick with him knowing that he's not growing? Right.
Because Howell just came in, and in 11 games or 12 games, he's second best as far as yardage. I know they've throwing a lot because of.
Well, they throw a lot. Bieniemy's pretty good play caller, and he's shown some flashes, but he's also been turning over the ball. So who knows?
Okay, wait. I would like to answer this question. And first of all, Eddie, he's been throwing a lot is an understatement. He has been throwing the most out of anyone in the last 30 years.
which is my point. Yeah.
Just want to say that.
Yeah.
Since the millennium, he is dropped back the most time. Just want to say that. So he's not just throwing a lot; he is throwing unbelievable, like at an unbelievable rate. Right? I mean, this game we ran a lot, but that's nonetheless.
Yeah.
I think that I was trying to think of like a comparison of like what quarterback that we've seen recently, and I kind of picked it situation wise, not talent wise. And I was thinking Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow, because their first 2 years they had a really rough O-line. Both of them got sacked a ton. Trevor Lawrence had a really terrible coaching situation, like one of the worst we've seen ever, right, in his first year with the guy who is a kind of a creep. I forget his name. The college coach.
Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Correct for 200. Go on.
Yeah. And then we have the 31st worst defense in the league. So there's a lot of different factors to go along with the fact that Sam Howell is showing a lot of flashes, but is in a really bad situation right now. And we thought at the beginning of the year, maybe we have one of the top wide receiving rooms in the league. And if that take looks horrible right now. I mean, they are really, they're not playing well. And I'm not going to say our receivers are bad, but they're not playing well. I mean, our top receiver, Terry McLaurin, I mean, maybe he's given up. Maybe he's just having an off year. He's not looking like the Terry McLaurin that we've had. He's dropped the ball a lot of times. We're having drops every single week. De'Ami Brown dropped a critical one this game. Like there's a lot of performance that you can blame on a lot of different. I mean, we are just having a really bad season from a complete team, organization. Like, we were very hopeful. It's a very disappointing season. So I think that, am I hopeful in Sam Howell, and do I think that he's the future? I'm honestly, if you asked me last week, I would have said hell yeah. And I've really started to think about it this week, because, and it wasn't just this game that like really did it for me, but it made me think about it. Right. I think that we will continue to develop Sam Howell through the next maybe 2 to 3 years. And if he continues to really struggle, which I'm not even saying he's really struggling this year, I think he's had a pretty dang good year for his first year in the situation that he is. But if we see that Jaguar/Bengal leap, because the Bengals went to the Super Bowl in Joe Burrow's second year, the Jaguars, won a playoff game in their second year with new coaching staff and stuff. So if we see that leap from Sam Howell, yeah, he might be the future. If we see kind of a similar struggle, him not getting the ball out, him taking a lot of sacks, especially if we shore up the O-line, him turning the ball over, I don't think that I am ready to say that he's the future right now. I think he is the future for the next couple of years. We're going to be starting Sam Howell next year. I fully believe that. And I think he's an attractive player for coaches and managers to come on, because he's showing potential. That's my answer. I know it was long-winded, but
it was a yes or no question, but thank you. I hear you, but like, again, here's another question for you guys as fans. What if the tank works? What if you have a top 5 pick and you've got a shot at Williams or May?
Yeah.
Does that make you think twice about riding with Sam Howell? I don't know.
Well, I think there's more important areas to shore up. I think we got to shore up the defense. We can use those top picks. Bradley mentioned that a strong quarterback is attractive to a head coach. So are top draft picks. And
you just made me cringe with saying a first round draft pick on defense. We really need to be getting a fucking tackle.
We've done that too many times.
Yeah, okay. We need to. If we draft defense in the first round, if we go edge rusher with our first pick, I'm going to lose my mind.
Okay, well, but to my point, there are the defense is fine. Is that what you just said?
No, I said as far as the defensive line, they got 9 sacks.
Yeah, but it was against the Giants.
It doesn't matter. See, here's the thing that I see with the NFL. It's all about matchups. sometimes they get weird. Sometimes like people are saying that Washington plays down to teams. Well,
the same level. I do that when I play golf.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like we are so much better. Maybe in our ego, we thought we were so much better than the Giants because they only had 2 wins. We had
something to ride on last year with the defense. We had a top 6 defense or something, didn't we? 7?
Yeah, but it still didn't translate to.
No, it didn't ever translate to wins. But you're right.
You know what I mean?
I want to know how we went from a
lot of these
defense that
stats
was promising to nothing.
Yeah,
like with 2 top prospects playing for 7 games too. I mean,
you're talking about the two linemen we let go.
And I think the thing is, and Marty, I want to get your opinion on this because you're much more knowledgeable in football. But I tend to think that when you have star athletes like this that are playing on the same team, trying to get sacks, doing their little dances after every fucking play, they're not gelling. As I said this in the beginning of our podcast, they don't gel as a team. The coaching doesn't seem to make them gel. Like, hey, maybe you have to lay back and not go for every single sack and get beat on the corner every single fucking time. Like, you guys are supposed to be making sacks. Like, I don't understand. Like, they don't play as a team. They don't play like cohesively with a gel or a glue. Is that something that takes coaching to form that glue, or is it just egos all fighting for who's going to have the best TV spot? Like, because I don't know what the dance is about.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, we'll see. Like, Young is going to look good now because he's on a very cohesive top unit, and he's going to be a piece of it. He doesn't have to be the star. And if he can stay healthy, he should do well. And Sweat, they already signed. He's already having an impact. Luckily for all of us in the draft sweepstakes, I think the Bears are going to get hot. They almost beat Detroit. Sweat's going to have a big impact on that. Fields comes back. I'm pretty sure the Bears they'll still own the number 1 pick from Carolina because Carolina is dead in the water. Yeah. But that second pick will hopefully drop behind both of us, and we'll get a good shot at someone. Look, I mean, who knows? With clearly the coach has to is going to be changed for sure. But yeah, like both the Giants and Redskins underachieved wildly. Sorry, Commanders. And you guys should have a button on this show because you must do that all the time, right? There's got to be something where you say,
we've been beat down.
We've started to get used to it
enough.
You've gotten used to it? Okay.
It's the outsiders that make that slip up more.
So, Marty, I got a
Yeah.
question for you because, you brought up coaching, Eddie brought up coaching, and, I think the Giants made a big coaching switch last year. And last year you guys looked like you were on your way to something.
That's right.
And I still think that, from a coaching staff perspective, I think you guys are in a really good spot. I mean, Wink Martindale, has the Commanders drawn up perfectly, but I want to ask you, like, what do you think about your coaching staff? And then what do you think of our coaching staff? I'll just be straight up. Yeah. Well, comparatively.
Yeah. I mean, look, here's a weird take, even though in general, I like Eric Bieniemy and I want him to succeed. And there's a good chance you're going to be your next head coach because of the pedigree that he brings from Kansas City. He was definitely part of the problem. If you have a young quarterback and you have a stud running back, why the fuck are you throwing it 50 times a game? The reason Eric Bieniemy's throwing it 50 times a game is because he's flexing to get a head coaching job. He's showing off. Because
hold up, Marty.
That's my opinion. I think he should have had more balanced attack.
Right. Let me cut in right there.
Agree, but
Think about this. Have you seen our offensive line, particularly before the last 2 games of the season?
It's not great, right?
Yeah. So the first problem that they had to fix was to protect Sam Howell, which didn't work so much against the Giants. But prior to the Seattle game and maybe the game before that, he was getting killed.
Yeah.
So the first order of business was to protect Sam. And a line that could not protect Sam was also not opening any holes. And every time Robinson gets 5 or 10 yards, we think we've got a running game, and we get so excited because we're so desperate for a positive run. we're not great in the run game.
Well, look, it's a vicious cycle, right? When you're not good, losing begets losing, right? But what I would say is that in general, it's considered easier for offensive linemen to run block than pass block.
Yeah,
In
agreed.
general, when it's considered when you're the aggressor and you're launching forward, that's an easier thing to do than strategically backpedal and figure out who's coming from where. So if your line's mediocre, you have to establish the run to have any sort of chance with your play action. Also, Eric Bieniemy was spoiled by the talent of Patrick Mahomes and the size and strength of the Kansas City O-line. He doesn't have that O-line. You have to, and one of the things to establish a good running game is to be stubborn with it and keep running and keep running.
Yep.
So the fact that you have a losing record and a first or second year quarterback, whatever we're calling him, that's throwing the ball more than any quarterback in the history of the sport, that's a problem. It just
Agreed.
is like he's been getting sacked and he's been punting on fourth and long because of the sacks, and he's made turnovers. Now he's also thrown some good balls. He's shown some promise. They will probably ride with him and see if a new coaching staff and a talent infusion will help. But I really think you have to. It's somewhere in between. Like you saw when the Tommy DeVito came in, they were too protective, right? That first game that we lost and should have won because they wouldn't let him throw the ball at all. That was nuts. Like you can't win a game. That's like I could have been the quarterback of that game. Like everyone knows I'm not throwing the ball. So what was the point of that, right? So it's somewhere in between that, right? I feel like to bring out this crazy air attack to just show that look at this fancy playbook I brought with me, I don't think really served them. Like I think they needed to balance it and know that who's the best player on offense. Well,
so you can make an argument numbers for a resume to get a job.
I mean, I didn't make that up. I've read that other places too, but I felt like they just got a little too fancy. You could make a case for Terry McLaurin, but I think Brian Robinson's the best player on offense, and you should feature him. And that means you not only do you run, but you throw screens and you do RPOs and you do things. And Howell can run. Why don't they do more RPOs to keep the defensive line honest?
Agreed.
Right?
They're just doing all these bit too high, and he gets himself fumbling.
Brian Robinson was one of the few highlights of Sunday's game.
Yeah.
Brian Robinson had a great game, and kept pushing like second and third effort. You know, when the rest of the team was kind of like flat.
I think
like,
Gibson is kind of like that too, because he's trying to play for another job somewhere too. But I think years are numbered.
So here's my take on Eric Bieniemy, and I think that I actually disagree with you. I don't think he's throwing because he wants another job, but I also disagree with you, Tico, that I do think that I don't think that it's he needs to run it more, he needs to pass it more, or he needs to continue passing it more. What he is terrible, like really bad at. Actually, you know what? Let me start with the good. What he's really good at is he's creative, and he has opened this offense and when he gets in a rhythm, he has made this offense look better than it's looked in 30 years. That's just a fact. I mean, the fact that Sam Howell was leading the passing leaders last week is part of that fact. He's not. I don't think he is as a creative with the run game, which frustrates me because he was a running back. He was a running back coach. Maybe it is something to do with the O-line not being talented in the run game. Here's what he's really bad at. When his plan doesn't go the way he thinks it's going to go, he is terrible at adjusting. Just awful. Going with it. I mean, against the Giants the first time, right? Wink Martindale is a great defensive coordinator. I think he's a good defense coordinator.
Statistically, he's one of the better coordinators in the league.
Yes,
I mean,
agreed. And especially with the talent that you guys have, like you haven't had the best
debatable on his record.
Yeah. But here's what I'll say. The first time you guys blitzed out of your minds, you played a ton of man, and we had no answers on offense. I mean, until the end of the game where it felt like Eric Bieniemy was like, okay, try this. Like he just didn't know what he was doing. And then he schemes up and goes, okay, they're going to blitz a lot. They're going to play a lot of man. And in this game, you guys sat back in zone. You blitzed, occasionally on third down. You got in Eric Bieniemy's head where he had no answer for the zone. He is terrible at making adjustments on the fly. He is also a first-year OC with a first-year quarterback. So there is a
first-year OC calling the plays.
That's what I mean.
He was OC in Kansas City, right?
Yeah, this is his first year calling the majority of the plays with a first-year quarterback. So I think that there is some grace that needs to be given to that situation, but there is no doubt in my mind that he was terrible in this game, and he has been terrible this season. Not like there's been points where he's been terrible this season. There's also been points where
it's endemic of it, like you said, of the whole team, right? There's been enough highlights on offense that you probably keep Hal and you probably keep Bieniemy, but it's been inconsistent, and there's certainly been lack of adjustment. And just like you said, like how do you the offensive line? I want to go back to that because a lot of Giants fans are talking about that a lot because, as you said, Eddie, both quarterbacks got sacked 9 times, but one of them won the game.
Right.
And so, and our quarterback was certainly was a guy off the street. Yours, at least, was I think a second or a third rounder. Like he was supposed to be the guy, right? Our guys was
actually
okay, but you made him the guy, right? Our guy came into the season as third string, right?
Living at home with his mom, right? He still lives at home.
And living at home with his mom, it's like, I think we just saved some money on room and board, so we hired a kid who could drive himself to MetLife to play. I don't know what that was. But, but I do think that O-line, to some extent, this whole argument was blown up by that, right? A quarterback's job is to extend the play and not get sacked, knowing that the offensive line isn't going to protect you perfectly every single play.
You got to move and make decisions.
I'm so sick of, the Giants offensive line is a mess. I would certainly see your commander crappy line and raise you and say the Giant line is even crappier. But it doesn't matter because if you get up, right? They both got sacked 9 times, but guess what? Both team ran 60 plays. So just keep playing. When Eli Manning last won the Super Bowl, I only know this fact because it's been trending in Giants fandom this week. What do you think the rank was of the Giants offensive line when they won the Super Bowl the last time with Eli Manning?
Low.
32nd. Wow. 32nd. Dead last in the league. And Eli Manning got his brains beat in, which is why his career ended 5 years short of where it should have. Because that kid just got up every time. He got his bell rung every time. He got beat up every time. And he got up and he made something happen. And especially in the Super Bowl, you saw him get ping-ponged around and make things happen. Daniel Jones falls like a house of cards. Daniel Jones gets hurt all the time and doesn't go back in the game, right? Like you have to be able to fight through that. Tommy DeVito's fighting for his NFL life. Of course, medical should do their job. We don't want guys playing concussed. But football, you're hitting each other. It's going to hurt. And part of being a quarterback is to play through pain when you get hit and hit to the turf. And your bones aren't broken and your head's not ringing, but it hurts, and getting up and making a play. And that's what DeVito did because out of necessity, he's trying to have a career. He's fighting hard. And Hal, to his credit, fought through that too. And so I'm tired of everybody. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think, yes, of course, if you have a better offensive line, you have a better chance of winning. But to some extent, the great teams, the quarterback make plays, right? Yeah. And Patrick Mahomes extends the play. Josh Allen extends the play. Aaron Rodgers, when his Achilles works, extends the play, right? You have to move around and you have to avoid people and you have to have some pocket presence and all the things. So to me, there's a lot lacking. I'm a big Daniel Jones hater. I would take Sam Howell over Daniel Jones any day of the week. And I knew that our shitty soft schedule was going to backfire on us because 2 years ago we were so terrible, right? We had a super soft schedule last year, and we made the playoffs, and they gave Daniel Jones a Brinks truck full of money that we're going to be paying the price for the next 5 to 10 years now. So, offensive line, yes, of course, the best offensive lines tend to do well, but at some point, you got to stop blaming the O-line. The quarterback just has to make things happen.
It's a balance, though. I mean, let's be real. And when we've said that a lot, through watching when he was really getting sacked. And by the way, Sam Howell didn't get sacked 9 times in this game. I don't know if he did.
Right, 6.
It was a previous game.
I have
6, 9, okay.
Whatever.
But
then you have no excuse. How come you didn't win? I don't understand.
Well, that's a damn good point.
Well, but there is something to be said about. I want to let you finish, Dad. But there is something to be said about coaching because I saw a Giants player punching balls left and right. Like I mean, they are a well-coached defense.
And I love that. I mean, not as a Commanders, not when they're doing it to the Commanders, but I love seeing a defense have that kind of fight. And clearly that is coaching. They're causing turnover. They're coached to cause turnovers, and they did it well. They punch the ball out of guys who have a good grip on the ball, and they get that punch right on the ball.
Yeah, I couldn't even blame the
it's hard to blame the runner. It's such a good defensive play.
And Donnie, to add to that point, they've only done it to 2 teams. The defense has only made a difference to 2 teams.
The Commanders and the Commanders.
No. Who else did they beat? Who else did they beat this year?
Who was the one in the lane? I don't know.
I don't know. We beat Arizona.
There you go.
That's
Arizona and us
Arizona.
twice.
Is that the same Arizona that beat Dallas?
Yeah, it is.
This is
a weird one.
Craziness.
It's just a weird
All right, so
league,
let's get his take on next this Thursday for Thanksgiving, because we're planning on having severe
Oh
odds.
boy.
We're going to have some serious heartburn, right? You don't see any way of us doing anything but losing by 15 to 20.
I would take Washington with the spread. I feel like Dallas is on such a hot streak, and in the Dak Prescott era, they've always found a way to implode when they're on these hot streaks.
And like I said, it's imploding them a little bit.
It's the same way Washington seems to have Dallas's number, the same way New York has Washington's number, and it's I would take them with the spread.
Not
you're going a little bit far with that one.
He's being nice.
I think they'll show up.
Splits with Dallas.
We have Philly's number. The Dallas is a little sketch. Although on Thanksgiving we tend to beat Dallas on Thanksgiving.
And Sam Howell beat them last year. Sam Howell beat them
the
last time we saw Dallas. Sam Howell did do really good.
Maybe the coaches show that film of Sam Howell and make sure the team doesn't let down. But Dallas is one of those teams that can let down in any second, right? And I do think the Commanders play with pride. I do think they care. I do think they respect Rivera, and
you do. Okay.
Could they get trucked and destroyed? Dallas might be a team of destiny. They really are playing well. But if Dallas holds to form, Washington will show up, and it'll be a tight game, and it could just be more NFC madness and.
Yeah, I think we lose. We give them a struggle. Like, think about it. We did it with Philly twice. Those games, we could have won both of those games. We'd be talking about
those were 2 of our best games of the year.
Talking about 6-4 right now, or 7-4 maybe if we got lucky with you guys.
Philly does not, or Dallas. Yeah, Philly does not have the Dallas defense though.
They don't.
Dallas gives up the second least amount of yards per game after Cleveland.
And who gives up the most points per game? We do.
We do. I was about to say the thing I'm most excited about for Thursday is I have CD Lamb on my fantasy football team.
That's exciting.
He should go for 225 and 2 touchdowns. I'm pretty pumped about that. It's gonna carry me this week.
Okay, wait. Last question for Marty.
Okay.
Maybe this is one of his last, because I know it's getting late over there.
Yeah.
There's been ridiculous talk about Belichick potentially coming to Washington. I say it never happens. And I think it's a big disaster of an idea.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a Tom Brady, all right?
Right.
And he doesn't know how to pick players. He's going to want control of choosing players, which I don't think we should give him. And he's so delightful in front of the camera.
And he
what's
just
the question?
Extension.
My question is,
the question?
You think it's even a viable option? Like, why?
That's a tough one. The Belichick rumors are flying for the Giants also. Obviously, he was the coordinator here for a lot of years. He's still close to the Mara family. There's a part of him that came close to taking this job, right? A couple of times where it seemed like he was supposed to be the heir apparent to Bill Parcells. So, and then it just with his pedigree, if you're the ownership trying to establish credibility, look, do I think it's going to work? No. As an owner, do I think any owner considering how desperate the Washington franchise has become, can an owner look a fan base in the eye and say, yeah, I thought it was better not to hire Bill Belichick? I don't think that's happening. If Bill Belichick wants that job, that Washington is going to hire him and give him that job, right? It just
really
is.
I don't know if I agree. I don't know if I agree. I'm want to give Josh Harris more credit. You know, I see what he's done with other teams, and I don't think Belichick is the right route here. I think you want to find a young up and comer who's proven himself as an OC,
like a Sean McVay type, you know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
That
exactly.
kind of went sour for a little bit, but
and
it's funny because I think that this is actually like a total owner move, is to and I think that our next head coach will be young, but I think Bill Belichick is like I would say 50% right now coming to Washington.
Yeah. He just has the pedigree. Like it's like two different things. Like, what's the PR move and what do you think's going to work? Like, I don't have faith that Belichick at his age and stuck in his ways is going to magically turn it around.
I don't either.
But I just don't think as an owner you would walk away from that resume and from that PR move to show, we're serious about football here now that I'm the new owner of Washington, and the days of the jokes and the silliness and the corruption and all the nonsense are over. And guess what? We're bringing in the most no-nonsense coach in the history of the NFL in Bill Belichick. Thank you very much. Good night.
If anybody can work with B squad players, it's him, as long as Tom Brady's throwing to that B squad player. Because he did that. He set up incredible teams with average, mediocre players.
And
but
Tom
was
Brady.
it because of his coaching, or was it because Brady was fucking that good?
Well, what's funny? The funny thing about New England is that we always downgraded their players because they were so expendable at times, and a lot of times they weren't seemingly household names, except we all knew their names.
Yeah.
All the way back to Troy Brown when they first started winning Super Bowls. But also it's reported that Belichick is, I like to say Belichick because that's the way it's spelled. But Belichick signed his extension. So it's probable he'll be in New England for a little while longer at least.
I think that's a tough take. I think that's a tough take. I think he's done at the end of the season. But if we get Belichick, the good thing is...
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Because he's been losing for the last 3 seasons. I mean, it's the same thing with Ron Rivera. He's lost for the last 5 seasons. He's done. I mean, this is a business. It's not we really love Bill Belichick because he won 7 Super Bowls here.
But there's certain franchises like Pittsburgh, particularly, more than
Pittsburgh
any other.
Never have a losing record since Mike Tomlin has been the head coach.
Yeah,
it's
but
a different situation.
Also, they don't have 10 Super Bowl appearances in a
20-year
period.
They've got 6 rings.
But 4 of them happened in the 70s.
All I'm saying is they have listen to this, Tico. Never had a losing record under Mike Tomlin.
Check this out.
Never.
The Patriots with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick had 9 Super Bowl appearances. My bad. 9 Super Bowl with one coach.
He's the best coach of all time. I will. Until Andy Reid wins 7.
We just tossed that out the window, and he's been there over 20 years.
We'll see.
One of the problems
they let Brady go.
Near Washington.
Why wouldn't they let Belichick go?
We'll see.
Well, it might be up to him, right? I mean, by the way, those 9 Super Bowl appearances.
He was the general manager.
Right.
Belichick was the general manager.
Here comes the Giants' take on it.
That's right. Now, let's not forget that Brady's 3 losses to the NFC East.
Season.
NFC East.
Oh, man.
2 to the Giants, 1 to the Eagles. Yes,
that's right.
I miss Eli Manning's big head and crying face and that big helmet. It just used to remind me of
Eli face is the best.
So sad.
Well, I think that might be
drafted Daniel Jones because he looks like Eli.
I think that might be. I think that might be a perfect ending segue for our time. Thank you so much for being here today. You're welcome. Again, please check out his the Fantasy Football for Dummies edition 2. It will help you win your season. Is there a slogan for the book?
No, I don't have a slogan.
Make one up right now.
All right. Make one up right now.
Buy my book, win back your money.
There you go. Boom.
Buy my book, kill this puppy.
Win back your money.
Well
thank you so much for
Marty.
having us.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
you.
Thanks, guys. Take
Marty,
care. Good
thanks
luck
for
this
not
week.
totally
Take care,
trashing
Marty.
us
Thanks for
and
coming
making us
on.
feel more miserable than we
We'll
already
see you. We'll see you
I
next
understand.
season when we sweep you.
All
Good
right,
luck with
sounds
that.
good.
We're
See you
gonna
at
hold you to
MetLife.
that now.
All right, take
All
care,
right.
guys.
Bye
All
Very
bye.
right,
nice.
Marty. Thanks again, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Well, that was an awesome interview. Thank you, Eddie, for bringing Marty on. He's very
He's great.
knowledgeable. He
Absolutely.
definitely knows what he's talking about. And I like that he didn't rub it in too much because I'm
Well, 'cause he
I'm
knows he's
vulnerable
at-
right now.
He could
They
have.
still have a
Yeah.
worse record than us, so maybe he feels.
Yeah. So
Or are they tired
okay,
of it?
couple things. Number one is me and Tico had a discussion a couple weeks ago, and I actually forget the name that you brought up, Tico, but we were talking about some coaches. And one of your commandments was investigate one of our coaches, and I forget his name.
I might be able to dig it up. Let's see. I don't know.
But
He was
it's
the defensive backs coach.
defensive backs coach. And it was fascinating to me because I
Brett
brought up the name
Vesselmeyer.
Yes, there you go.
Vesselmeyer. And it was interesting because I brought up the name Chris Harris, who was our DB's coach last year. And we let him go in the offseason to the Titans. And what has been one of our biggest struggles this year on the defensive side?
Defensive backfield has been suspect.
Yeah.
Suspect. And
Suspect.
I mean,
not enough picks, very
Yep.
few picks.
Mm-hmm.
And last year
and a
it
ton
wasn't
of just disasters.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley in the corner. Come on.
It's
Saquon
terrible.
Barkley in the corner for a touchdown.
Oh yeah, that was.
And last year it was not great either. But but in the past, like the year before that in 2020, we had a great defensive backfield. It frustrates me because it doesn't feel like there has been the development that these players deserve. Benjamin St-Juste, I think, has developed into a decent corner, but the development isn't there. Emmanuel Forbes is not developing. Cam Curl, has seen a regression from last year. I mean, Cam Curl was a bad dude last year. He was in the top 10 conversation of safeties last year. He is not there this year. He's still one of our best players on our defense, but he has had a regression this season.
But what do you think caused that? I mean,
Brett Vesselmeyer. Investigate the dude.
Yeah.
I'm saying that Chris Harris was we'll see what happens next year for Tennessee. But if we fire Jack Del Rio this season, the name that I would throw out to replace him would be Chris Harris, because he was that guy. He was our defensive superpower, young dude on the coaching staff, and we got rid of him this year. And that frustrates me.
So as a head coach, though, somebody like Rivera, shouldn't he be the one that is looking over these guys and saying, hey, I come from the defensive side. I should be able to look at my team of managers underneath me and see what they're doing. Doesn't he see this as a defensive manager?
He's terrible at spotting talent. I mean,
it's really hard to answer for him.
Yeah, it's hard to answer for him. And also, even if he sees it, it's still Jack Del Rio's next in command, and then all of his people that are under him. So it's a whole team of coaches, and we look at the coordinators and go, it's their fault. But it's a whole team.
Yeah,
Rivera's just at the head of everybody, but it's a pyramid.
Yeah,
it's a pyramid of coaches.
It is,
and also players got to play. Players got to play, and there's got to be some dogs on there in terms of player leadership. One of the reasons why the Chicago Bulls were so great was because of Michael Jordan's leadership. Whether they hated him or loved him, Ray Lewis, there was no question. Drew Brees, when he's like, hands on here, hit the dog, all of that crazy stuff they do. He used to get those guys fired up.
I agree with you, Tico, but there's that ultimate responsibility. It goes to the head coach, and that includes bringing in dogs. Why don't we have dogs?
We don't have dogs, man.
Nobody's bringing
And
them in,
develop, but also
And-
develop.
Yeah, they're Chihuahuas. They're not pit bulls.
we got
Because you get talent, and then if you do something with that talent, the credit goes to both. Like Pico said, I mean, our players did not show up.
No,
Sunday.
they were
They
flat.
did not. And you know what? Jack Del Rio coached a good game yesterday. But there's so many multifaceted things to look at when you're talking about a bad football team. And a lot of it is like, okay, the players aren't playing good. Why aren't they playing good? Okay, maybe they're having an off day. Maybe their off season wasn't great. Maybe the people in charge of training them aren't great. Maybe the people in charge of training the coaches aren't great. Maybe the people bringing in those coaches aren't great. Like there's so many things. And I think that all of those are true for our team right now. Like, I really do.
And the one thing he had in Carolina, whether people like him, hate him, or think he sucks, is a guy by the name of Cameron Newton.
Mm-hmm.
That year, he was the MVP. If they did not show up in the Super Bowl, it's not all Cam's fault. But Cam brought a spark to Carolina that when he left, that whole team disappeared.
Well, it's kind of like
Ron Rivera's had only 2 or 3 seasons with a winning record. I mean,
but he had him. He had him.
No, but when we talk about Mike Tomlin, who's never had a losing record in Pittsburgh, and then we talk about Ron Rivera, who has had 3 winning records in his career as a head coach.
And they're long in the rearview mirror at this point.
Yeah,
that's
very telling to what he's put, and that's what he, and that's why I believe that his tenure in Washington is not going to be much longer. Okay. And so I wanted, and Pico, we had this conversation a couple weeks ago, so I want to hear what your thoughts are on it. After a couple weeks.
That says it all.
Man, I got no answer for this team right now. Other than I want to see some dogs, man. And Sam Howell's not a dog either.
No, I think he is. Did you
He's
see
good.
Trying to get in that end zone? He took a body slam.
I like his play. I'm not mad at Sam. I think he's the best we've had in a long time. He's the best we've had in a long time, and it's just it takes so many pieces.
He's too nice a guy. You want him to be a little tougher.
Ron Rivera's that nice guy too, right? He's kind of a nice guy, Christian guy, morals, and everything is pretty and sweet and say the right things. We all like Ron. Everybody, nobody does, like Sarah Lee. Everybody doesn't like something, but nobody doesn't like Ron Rivera.
Like him too, but
however, there's some edge or something that might be missing from his character. And
I don't
Belichick.
Like the way, go ahead, Tico. Finish. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, as weird as Belichick has been, he's got an edge to him. He's got an edge to him, and when
he gets angry when they lose. Like I would like to see Rivera kind of get angry
with some emotion,
and show something other than just going, the guys really didn't play as well as they should have. I would have liked it if they didn't showboat as much, but
Well, I can't talk about the future, but
I think the biggest problem was it comes down to a little bit.
We're practicing hard.
Hoffman did it too.
I'm really Sam's doing good.
Hoffman that you
Sam's doing a good
job. I think that we're focused. Some people focus on things that don't matter. In my opinion, like people worry about the name. I'm like, I don't give a. We could be called the Cupcakes. People worry about our coach's emotions. I don't give a shit about our coach's emotions. I don't care if people are nice. I don't care if they're mean. You know what I care about?
Results.
The left-hand comment. The left-hand column.
Yeah,
in my screen it's this side. But the left-hand column, because all I care about is wins. That's all I care about. Our team could all be clones of each other, each named John Doe. I don't give a shit. They could be literally Star Wars clones of each other. If we're winning games, there could be all the controversy in the world. They're using clones. I don't care. We're winning.
But okay, but that's this
Super Bowl.
now you're the emotion is getting a hold of you. You're like, you're some of that anger and frustration is coming out. Look, this is what we do week in and week out, whether we're on a podcast or not. We talk about football games. We talk about what we think is right and wrong with the team. We sit on our sofa and we pontificate, of who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong. So that's a part of the fun of the game. That's a part of why we enjoy the game, is because we can pick apart this and that from the comfort of our living room.
Right.
And so what I'm hearing you say, Bradley, is it's frustration. It's like there aren't enough wins in that left-hand column, and I'm pissed about it. And I don't. Whatever else comes into play, give me wins. That's all. That's the bottom line. And
Dan Snyder could still be Dan Snyder could be the owner, and if we won a Super Bowl, I probably wouldn't care.
I'm sorry. I didn't see any fucking passion or fight in our team to beat the Giants, who we should have easily beaten or beaten with a fight close. It should have been a closer game. I don't understand why he thinks that Rivera thinks that his team was like the one at fault there. It's his fucking fault. They were not motivated. I've never seen Terry McLaurin look so like, what did you take, a Valium before you played? He was like, he's looking down. I've never seen him like that. Something happened in that locker room at halftime.
Well, you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point, Eddie. And have you ever seen teams that keep going back to the same player? Like say for Kansas City, when they want to hit Travis Kelce.
Kelce, yep. Mm-hmm.
And they go to him
over.
And then a couple plays later they go to him again. And
DK
then they go
Metcalf
to him again.
Against us.
And then they go to again.
Yeah.
And then they go to him
working.
again. And he's got 250 yards at the end of the game. We keep talking about how great Terry McLaurin is. I've never seen a game where they just say, we're going to put it on his shoulders. He's got great stamina, as most receivers do, because that's hard to keep coming back to the huddle, then having to sprint out. I want to see a game, and this may be, I said, my command, let's go to the commandments. My commandment is thou shalt contain on defense in the passing game and score in the passing game, because I want to see them use Terry. He's the closest thing I've seen to a dog. Him, Brian Robinson coming out the backfield. I don't care if he runs it, catches it, or like Bradley says, I don't care.
Dances I don't care. With a 2-2 on. Just get it to the end zone.
Just get it to these players.
I agree with what Marty said. Marty said that Brian Robinson was our GOAT. He was our guy. And
I don't know
playing
about
like a pit bull. Nobody else is playing like a pit bull. Maybe
Brian Robinson is a dog. For real though.
Brian Robinson is a dog. I would agree.
Dog.
Yeah, I agree.
He has a bark.
And here's the, because I hear what you're saying, Tico. If Terry's our guy, let's give it to Terry. One of the things though I like about Eric Bieniemy's play calling, and it's been pretty consistent throughout all the games, and even though we're not winning, this is one point I like. They're spreading it out a lot. The same with this week's game, last week's game. If you look at all the receivers that he hit, he's spreading it all over the field, and I think there's something to be said for that. That's one of the strong things that has come out of Eric Bieniemy taking over this offense. How did you put it earlier, Bradley? You said he's mixing it up a little bit more, or he's bringing in some new energy. I can't remember what you said, but there's something he's brought to the team.
He's
creative. He's more creative, and I think that there's that spreading it out is a little bit of that creativity, and I think it keeps defenses on their toes a little bit more.
I fully agree with you, Dad. But there is something to be said to Tico's point. Put the ball in your playmakers' hands. And the fact that Jahan Dotson had 0 catches last week and has had 2 games with 0 catches is atrocious. Logan Thomas is slow and old and has been injured multiple times in his career and fumbled 3 times this season and struggled with drops. The fact that we keep feeding him the ball, I like it. He's big. Why aren't we getting it in the hands of our playmakers? That's the frustration that I have is, we need to spread the ball around, but ultimately get it to Jahan Dotson, who's a first-round pick. Get it to Terry McLaurin, who has had every season of his career has had over 1,000 yards. Get it to Brian Robinson, who's having a monster year this season. Like Curtis Samuel.
Jahan had a touchdown on Sunday.
Oh, sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Sorry.
So
last week he had 0.
Last week he had
points.
0. Yes.
And there was another one. My apologies.
Yeah.
He actually had a couple. He had a couple catches.
Couple of decent catches,
and he had the touchdown.
Yeah.
My apologies. I redact that. But I think he had like 4 catches, which is
3.
Actually 3, which is not terrible. But I would like that number to be higher.
Yeah.
Terry had,
Terry had 5.
Terry hasn't had
5
a game
for 43
over
yards. They
yards.
were shorties. Yeah, they were short.
Terry hasn't had a game over 95 yards this season.
Yeah.
So Tico, I hear you, man. We got to get these players the ball.
Yeah.
I think we got to spread it out to Robinson more, also too, with the running game and play up that play action. We haven't been. I don't mind us throwing as much as we do, but if we don't keep those defenses on their toes, I just feel like we were so predictable with all our players.
Yeah, but the weird thing too is that all this stuff we're talking about, they are moving the ball through the air.
Mm-hmm. Just can't get in the end zone, and we can't keep.
Well, it was the turnovers that
turnovers and the penalties and the dumb stuff. It's the goofy stuff. It's the goofy stuff that keeps them like last night. Kansas City could have won that game. It was the goofy stuff of people dropping the ball. What's his name? Marquez Valdez-Scantling dropped a beautiful. I mean, it was right in his hands.
Yeah,
that'd have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
Well, that brings me to my. That brings me
turnovers.
To
my, I think also turnovers in this game against the Giants proved to be more costly than sacks.
Oh yeah, they were.
Oh, when there were 6 of them.
Brings me to my exact point of my commandment, which is thou shalt cause more of our own turnovers on defense by punching out the ball as an actual tactic that we tell them to do. Every other team is doing it. Every other good team is doing it. Why are we not even? Did you see any of our guys try to punch a ball out? They were trying to punch it out while we were holding it high too. They still got it out.
Still got it.
Can't blame the running backs. Can't blame the receivers for dropping it. I can blame. Well, I can blame the receivers for dropping a pass, but I'm not going to blame them for the fumbles that they had. Were all caused by great defensive punch outs. Where are ours? Where's Del Rio dialing that up? That's my command.
I'm with you, Eddie. I mean, I kind of worked that into my commandment is we got to play a balanced game. It doesn't seem like we ever put the whole thing together. So we got to play. If we're going to beat a team like the Cowboys, you got to have a strong offense, defense, special teams, and win that turnover.
One turnover.
You've got to win the turnover battle.
1 or 2 turnovers will lose the game for us if we're not careful.
So my commandment this week is kind of a depressing one. My commandment last week was win the game.
Yeah.
Against the Giants. And at halftime when we were losing, I remember being like, well, I think we should win. I think we should lose this game. Like that's probably the best for our future because winning at this point means we have a lower draft pick, and that's a controversial opinion that we can chat about for a little bit at the end of our show. But my commandment for this game is first, thou shalt continue Sam Howell's growth and maturation and progress by him looking very good in this game. But we ultimately lose this game. So my commandment is thou shalt make Sam Howell continue to grow, but also lose this game and not get embarrassed on national television.
That's a take there, Bradley. And then that's a question I'd love to ask our audience. Like, are you at the point of saying, let's just lose as many games as we can? It's hard for me to ever do that. I can't watch the Commanders and say, let's lose. I can, from this point to the end of the season, I can come away from a loss and say, well, I'll look on the bright side of it. We're one step closer to a better draft pick, but I'm not gonna be pulling for them to lose when I'm watching the game. I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm not going to go suicidal because we suck.
I will never root for my team to lose. I just want to state that for the record. And in fact, this is my least favorite part of the season because there's been too many of these in my career of watching this team, because there comes a point where winning no longer is beneficial. And that's the sad part of, and you guys can argue that, but in the draft perspective, that's a fact. It's not arguable. It's a fact that from a draft perspective, our draft goes up when we win and goes down when we lose. And we want the lowest pick that we could possibly have.
No team goes into it to throw the game.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, if
I'm not
ever
asking
been a
them
game,
for. We're bad enough. We don't need to throw a game, Eddie. We have 4 wins.
I know,
we
but
don't
I'm
need
just saying.
to throw games to lose. Throwing games means not firing Ron Rivera, which they won't do. So if we want to win a game, fire Ron Rivera. I don't want to win a game, so don't fire him till the end of the season.
No, there's
no point.
My point I'm trying to say though is that we've got a game against the team we hate the most, and it's not just the fans. I'm pretty sure everyone on the Washington team wants to win this game so bad, just because of whatever reason. They were willing to give up a couple of draft positions just to save face, just for this Thanksgiving. Let's bring a turkey home for Thanksgiving, can we?
And I'm gonna be happy if they win. Yeah. But in the back of my mind, in the back of my mind, and if we lose this game, it's gonna be like, well, at least we have a better draft.
We've ever done anything good with our good draft picks when we got them.
No, exactly.
Well, that should change when we get new management.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what we can hope for.
Should is a good idea. Yeah.
Because along with the head coach, we need a new what do you call it? What's the position? General manager. Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah. And that's
all right. So are you guys all thinking that Rivera will stay through the rest of the season, like Marty mentioned?
I wouldn't fire him. I would not disrupt what's already disrupted.
How much worse can you make it? It's not going to get any better.
It can be very, very worse, because
I think it can. And
every time you disrupt something like this, especially a head coach, unless, I mean, they did it over in Vegas. They
won 2 games in a row.
Yeah, but
Marty made a good point about respect. Respect for the who Ron Rivera is, who he's been for this team. Not just
play for the
league.
coach.
I mean, he has raised the level of respect for the Washington Redskins, for the Washington football team, and for that, he deserves to go out kind of, not with his tail between his legs, but like finish out the season. I would tend to agree with that. On the other hand, I think in future episodes, in future weeks of this podcast, we can start talking about who we think are the best prospects for a new head coach, because that's the road we know we're going. So we might as well start researching that and talking about that when we do future episodes.
Yeah. Okay, Bradley, why don't you take us home, baby? And,
hold on before you do that.
Let's roll out of here.
That's weird. Where did he go?
For the first time. What? Oh, that's right. You guys are in town for Thanksgiving.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm finally in California again. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode. That's a wrap. We hope you had just as much fun listening as we did, bringing you the latest and the greatest from the Burgundy and Gold. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and tune in next week.
Thanks, guys. Go Washington! Get going!